I want to speak to Colin Matthews.
Colin Matthews!
Welcome to another Press Gang Readers Commentary detailed video. Steven Moffat, Julia Sawalha, Dexter Fletcher and others are joined by Forlani this time. And before we get into it, give this video a like because it's free, it's professional and satisfies a remit of impartiality to educate and entertain. You should probably take out a subscription, which is free. You can get the next episode already by becoming a paid subscriber at patreon.com/Andy Luke. I've managed to keep my prices competitive with the Junior Gazette circa 1991, which is where we're going next. Series 3, Episode 3, Chance is a Fine Thing. Once more, the dynamic theme tune and opening credits. The gang being professional. These are now full-time jobs. Then something quieter. For this is a Lee Ross Kenny-focused episode. A letter has slipped through the space-time continuum. The hallway shot is followed by a missing scene of some notoriety, which I'll talk on later. The letter gives us the Phillips address, 24 Landcrest Street in Norbridge, which plays a big part directing conversations Kenny has with Lynda about choice and fate and philosophy. We get a montage of Judy being approached by young men hitting upon her. It positions Judy as a sex object to be hit upon and exposes a problem of the work environment in quite an amusing, entertaining way. Something Moffat returns to in Douglas is Cancelled, which has comedic similarities to Press Gang, but is much more unsettling. The dismissing of the flavour that is Spike Thompson is a perfect cap to the montage. Less so classing her as male because he's been rebuffed. The line feels despicably cringed and really should have been cut. This is a Colin episode as much as it is a Kenny one, as per rock solid on the themes of sexuality and selling. It does form a sweet theme coda to that. Does Colin have some interest in Kenny besides dollars that he's not divulging? Well, money involved is all Colin really needs.
Well, it might be a hot day.
Colin, I draw the line at nude photography.
Kelly, you'll have a song.
Stripped to the waist. And don't tell me you asked Spike first.
Oh, Lynda, actually.
Yeah, that one does strain the credibility. How is Colin still standing? So let's take a moment to talk about Forlani. Kenny! Kenny! Kenny, we need graphics to mock up a Forlani feature focus figure. Oh, great. Mail. Well, put it in the inbox. Look, I want you to bring me the head of graphics. Yeah, the head. The blonde one, Sam. I don't like her. Wasn't Judy the one that I fired? Look, I told you, Kenny, the paper couldn't run commercially while you were using part of your desk for her to sit on. It was a simple economic decision. So just get on to Sam, Julie, whatever her name is, and then I'll take a look at your envelope. Who's Kate? So anyway, on to Forlani. Press Gang was her first role. She also appeared in Police Academy Mission to Moscow, Brandy Spenning and Kevin Smith's Mallrats, a shallow teen movie, and all the better for it. Meet Joe Black, Mystery Men. In 2004, she both acted in and was assistant producer for indie comedy Memron. It's a story of Enron-type top executives who rule the prison yard golf course. The mockumentary won the Slam Dance Audience Award for Best Feature. It's an ensemble cast, including Mike McShane, Tim Bagley and John Lair, and it's up for free on Vimeo. Might give it a watch. She had a starring role in the one-season Camelot, playing Igraine, King Arthur's mother. Forlani had a recurring role in CSI NY, an indirect spin-off from CSI and direct spin-off from CSI Miami. Seasons 3, 4, and 6 of CSI NY 2007 to 2010 as Peyton Driscoll. Seasons 2 and 3 of NCIS Los Angeles 2011 to 2012 as Lauren Hunter, part of the NCIS shared universe, including Hawaii Five-0, where characters crossed over, but Forlani's Hunter did not, instead entering Hawaii Five-0 as recurring character Alicia Brown, season 78, 2016 to 2017. So from Hawaii to CSI NY and NCIS LA with Hawaii Five-0 to Hawaii Five-0 non-canonically. Forlani has been prolific in TV and film work, acting alongside everyone from Jackie Chan to Elijah Wood. In her career, she's mastered Scottish and American accents and garnered several award nominations. Here she looks quite beautiful. Adorable eyes, really dazzling. Business in Colin's office is as much as we'd expect. The Dangerous Toys is a good comic beat. So good it's below the radar as a setup for the final act. The knife and the teddy bear is a motif of how Moffat regularly uses humour for plot direction. In storytelling, plot refers to the structure of a piece. The usage covers big broad strokes, describing the narrative in anything from a paragraph to a half dozen pages. Plot will refer to main stories, A, B, and C plot, also subplot, C plot, and anything after. Key to the craft is plot is bones, everything else is body. A good teller knows plot is within story, but it is not story. I'm fascinated on my rewatch how often Moffat uses comedy to effect this, frequently hiding plot within comedy. Think about how humour is a universal human trait. It forms relationships between us, bonds us, heals us. Comedy is something we're susceptible to. We take in the joke, laugh it out. In Press Gang, vital information or background detail is embedded quietly within a hilarious line or two. The writer directs us to roar with laughter and simultaneously directs us to the road and route of the story. Moffat has us breathe in plot. Colin is autistically coded, and Judy doesn't understand brand marketing. It's a good scene. There's hints she's not a particularly nice person, and it highlights Colin's awkwardness and how that can cause misunderstandings with comedic value. And I imagine it was a bit of a gift for Mr. Moffat to write. Matt Saunders was a manager of the Press Gang mailing list from 1996 until closing last year. He loves this episode.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. Love it. Any problems with it? Well, looking at it with maybe 30 years of hindsight, when we opened the episode after the scenes with Kenny doing the DIY and finding the letter, we cut to the newsroom and there's the Julie point of view with all the guys coming up to her and like using all their best chat up lines. That hasn't aged very well, and we don't really get Judy characterized in much more than a bit of an object of desire for the guys. But I think we get away with it because the payoff is ultimately pointing to the incompetence and the shallowness of the guys. You know, that's the real payoff there. But yeah, Chance is a fine thing. It's a smaller story. There's actually, it's all about feelings and character motivations, and they trump any sort of journalism or newspapering going on. There's actually, I think there's not actually any kind of headline journalism-y, newspapery things going on. Very few scenes set in the newsroom. The only ones are at like when Colin and Judy have their second date, which seems a bit bizarre that that's in the newsroom, but okay, let's go with that. That's the only newsroom bit in it, I think. And is it any of the worse for that? God, no, it's beautiful. I love it.
I think I'm right in saying this is the final appearance of Czar's Cafe. Girl at Counter is uncredited. Kenny has slowed down Lynda enough to discuss his Crisis of Earth 1954 and the various multiverses around it. This gets my award for favourite dialogue in the episode. Short lines, quick succession, expanding ludicrously. One of those rolling joke piles. The banter is 100%. This plotline is a series of two-handers. It does a lot with character building. Kenny, while rooted in practicalities, is a dreamer. Lynda is into the here and now, the actual stuff in front of us. And she's right. There's no forwards in going backwards to things that don't exist, that haven't existed. But Kenny does think things over in triplicate. In my Press Gang the School Years long-form video essay, Rich Johnson proposed useful headcanon on Rock Solid and Kenny's emigration. The gist was that Colin empowered Kenny to think more freely about choices in life. And we can apply the same theory here. Colin's big picture pitches are contributing to why this predicament means so much to him. Alternate universes, what ifs, mean nothing to Lynda, evidenced by the gap of time she leaves between ordering the coffee and cancelling the coffee. And you see how heavy Lynda's bag was. That's a woman who's working and travelling. We get the warmly welcome return of Island FLITTON, Dublin Girl, Kelly. It's a very brief set of cameos, probably no longer than a minute added up, but it adds so much more to the themes in this story and to the tone of the narrative as it pours through. And dazzling and beautiful. And the Southern Irish accent just makes me weak at the knees. Spike and Colin and the dating front is a return to Wealthy Well, the Guru and the Fool. And as seen each time, Spike's expertise can only accomplish so much. The waiter is played by Nigel Williams with puzzled eyebrows, enunciation, a performance of privilege about to gracefully back into the hedgerow quietly. I'll try to cover his IMDb listings in the same way. Sam! It's a career going back to 1972, The Long Chase. He'd also appeared in Heidi High, Play for Today, Crossroads, Emmerdale Farm, when it was called Emmerdale Farm. Oh, that far back. Probably best known as a character of Legion in Red Dwarf, at least in my fan base. He'd also go on to appear in Grange Hill, The Afternoon Play, Midsummer Murders, and Casualty. Williams is a great foil for Reynolds, a perfect straight man, confused by Colonisms.
Name, sir?
Judy Wellman. She's a very nice girl. She'll be no trouble.
Thank you for putting my mind at rest, sir.
There's Colin's default showing he's used to providing an insurer and a guarantor. There's some very effective sound mixing of Colin and Spike discussing the date to lead us into it. The date with the nervous person and the character behind holding up signs is a sitcom staple even in 1991. TV Tropes names it earpiece conversation, present from MASH, Roxanne, James Bond, Will and Grace, Muppets Tonight. I'm sure you're familiar with it. This case of earpiece conversation pretty much aligns to how comedy writers do play out a situation like this. Romantic love by remote scripting, lines from prompter parroted, miming cues, verbal pratfalls, miscommunications, and confusion for comedy. As Colin discerns that Judy's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, is not one of her relations, you can hear Spike crying, pretty much figuratively. This marks out what a comedy genius Paul Reynolds is. His completely straight, innocent ability to give just a really fluid performance and turn on a line of dialogue.
Judy, Superman isn't a real person.
Right.
There's so many clever touches in the Judy Wellman story, setting up some brilliant, credible slapstick, cringy stuff, which really works because it doesn't just make Colin look like an idiot. It's so much cleverer than that. The first date restaurant scenes, the one where Spike's in the background and holding up the signs of what Colin should say, is foreshadowing. Is a massive foreshadow for coupling, as I'm sure Andy will mention. And there's a whole bunch of similarly cringy scenarios. I love it. The scene in Colin's office where Judy and Colin have their first kind of awkward encounter. No, not like that. Do you want to go out, Colin? The best line in that scene, I think, is Colin when Judy picks up the dangerous soft toy and Colin just shouts, "Not on direct heat." That is brilliant. I love that. It's one of those kind of laugh out loud belly laughs you don't get very often in Press Gang, but when they come, they're brilliant. It's up there in this episode with the "come with me to the toilets" line that Colin blurts out in the restaurant. It's brilliant. I love it. Love it.
Colin is, as Judy remarks, acting the jerk here, believably, without intent. Behaviour with all hallmarks of neurodiverse awkwardness. But it's important to note that's just one reading. Colin is frequently a jerk in other areas. This scene is a really good example of how agile Moffat's script is, and how when Colin is in a context that's usually relaxed, doesn't really know what to do with himself. The relaxed content, he becomes agitated, frustrated, shy, nervous. But when he's trying to weasel out of being caught out in association with some kind of fraud, he is a flow master, just incredibly good at ducking out and pulling contrivances together. Those skills haven't worked on Judy. Colin just isn't a viable option. And she quickly shows signs of being quite frustrated and quite impatient with Colin. Smitten with him in the newsroom, in the date, she's right down to the business of dating. Judy is no saint herself, and Forlani consciously plays her as an unlikable character. Kenny talks to Lynda through the letterbox because the sight of her might cause him to relent. Lynda's put a bit of work in with conditions because it's easier that way. The autistic one putting in the effort, being properly prepared for their meeting.
I'm a complete neurotic. Well, let's just take a little look at who's talking here.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, no offence, Lynda, but let's be honest. You're a selfish, paranoid, maladjusted, psychotic, complete bitch.
So there's a few resonances here from Sarah's face-off with Lynda in Friends Like These, when similar language is used, notably from this episode's sibling, Love in the Junior Gazette, where Kenny furiously loses it with Lynda, and where we introduce Dublin Girl. Under scrutiny, this tantrum feels a little under-earned. In this episode, we're expected to accept it's motivated by how very seriously Kenny takes the what if, and how unseriously Lynda does not. Still, angry Kenny is always fun for me. And also the little details. A step rather than a movement by Lee Ross in taking Kenny outside. A good little choreography there. 3 short scenes in succession set the road for the big finale. Putting aside the silliness of the restaurant scene, Colin's idea, Spike provides forward-thinking guidance in relationship matters. 2 episodes in a row now. This is in stark contrast to earlier portrayals of him as an unreliable, shallow floozy, although as we notice from the opening scene, he still drops some clunkers. Also, whatever he's eating, I'll have some of that. A good payment for his services.
Selling.
Some cheeky rhetoric cribbed from the Sangster guide. Has Colin not realised a girlfriend would cost him money? And this cleverly folds into Kelly's journey. Credits for cameos for her girlfriends, Lisa Davies and Carrie Lee. The second scene in this trilogy is Lynda locking Kenny out of his grandfather's house, which is exactly the tone of pettiness she exercises in her chronologically first appearance, Jasper Street to Lancrest Street. The themes of fate and destiny are attached to how each relate to them. Key for Kenny, submissive, goes where the currents pull him. That just happens to be with Lynda, who forces the universe to bend to her will. And then we cut to Judy and Colin in a very cosy space which looks like cohabiting. Certainly less of an on and off relationship. The scene confirms a sense of her as manipulative and arrogant with a sense of entitlement. Something of a siren. She's cheated on her partner with Colin and might be aware she's doing so again. He's a violently aggressive man. Scary. And from his reaction to breaking the mug.
She's stupid.
Judy and Clark are people we are warned of fraternising with. Sam! The actor who plays Clark is Tim Dutton. The level of intensity that we get from him here is quite amusing, quite over the top. This was Dutton's second televised role after the TV movie Murder Quality, whatever that is. But he'd soon, quite soon, get more and more opportunities. A small part in the 1992 movie Patriot Games, which I seem to recall had other press gang crew involved. He did quite well on the British TV circuit, popping up in Lovejoy, 4 episodes of Soldier Soldier, Peak Practice, Goodnight Sweetheart. But his biggest role would come in 2000 with 5 episodes of Ally McBeal, which was quite the hit show then, quite the zeitgeist. Dutton played Ally's love interest, Brian Selig, towards the end of the 3rd and then through to the start of the 4th series. He'd also pop up in The Bourne Identity, Inspector Lewis, the Archers podcast series, 6 episodes of Poldark, long-running British crime drama, Vera, episodes of which included Angela Bruce, Lee Ross in the following episode, Sharon Deuce in the following series, Hugh Corshey, and Julia Sawalha. Much as I love the return of Eileen Flitton and her melting sexy accent, Colin's second date almost steals the show. The bow tie theme is Tonight from West Side Story.
Sophistication.
Tonight, tonight, I'll see my love tonight, and for us stars will stop where they are.
Dutton's physique and the shot contrasts well with Colin's smaller, diminutive form. The shyster slips a lot of condescension past Clark, having accurately pegged him as very thick. Why would anyone need their name emblazoned across their chest? It's a bit like those people who put up flags of where they live. I mean, they're only going to need them if they get lost quite easily. It's pretty irresponsible that Judy has put Colin in this position. It's down to her that it's gotten this far and into the newsroom, that she hasn't put a stop to it yet. On the other hand, we've already seen domestic violence from Clark. Well, that's the best disguise for Superman. Animator Jim Sangster, editor of the Press Gang Programme Guide, has more serious thoughts on this, which I think are worth listening to.
This is the most sort of traditional comedy episode with lots going on, and because it's a comedy episode, Colin's taken centre stage. It is a lot of fun, but it's also really unsettling. Again, the adult themes are creeping in here, but they're not quite in a position where they can address them. They have to sort of point to them and then look in the other direction. So there's a suggestion that Clark is an abusive partner. I mean, it's more than a suggestion. Clark is an abusive partner, but it's almost thrown away because it's a Colin plot. So whereas Colin's ridiculous nature was used as to a strength with Something Terrible the previous year, this time it's just thrown away. We're shown the aftermath of Clark's incredibly violent outburst when he's trashed the newsroom. And we're told that Colin solved the problem by pulling a knife on him, admittedly a knife hidden inside a teddy bear. Because it's a children's show, you can't really address that particular topic in a way that a proper drama would. It's one of the very rare moments where the fact that Press Gang is a children's show means it just can't do the job that the story needs it to.
The placement of the gong can seem contrived in the payoff, but just look at where Clark is holding Colin, just in front of it. It's been well marked out by the set designers, and we get to see it over a length of time. The moment of Judy just slipping her coat off points to how Colin has already won. She's into it, rekindled, smitten, totally here for the date. Certainly the wrong time to do this. Perhaps part of a power play to Kent to mark out her territory. It's manipulative. The parallels drawn between her and Spike earlier are very apt and might be a good way to read Judy's actions here. How would we feel if Spike did the things that Judy does? And we could even take that one further and draw parallels between Lynda and Clark. Oh, sorry, it's meant to be a sitcom, innit? The denouement ties it all up well. Lynda's coded shorthand to Kenny.
What came after maladjusted? I'm considering a tattoo.
Is a humorous way of admitting she's sorry and has taken his accusations to heart and that he's right. It also highlights a problem with Moffat's scripts. They are so loaded, dense and fast-paced that sometimes you miss the actual real clever quality of them. The thing that makes them work so well can sometimes be a bit of a flaw. And Julia's hair is just gorgeous here. Judy has ducked out of the group efforts to repair the newsroom and sat on Colin's director's chair. A power move, no.
I know you're going to say I lied to you, got you in trouble. But I'll probably lie to you and get you in trouble again, Colin. But you know something? I'm worth it.
And here's the problem as I see it. Judy isn't worth it. She's torture. She's arrogant. And Claire Forlani portrays this brilliantly. From the moments like this where she's shallow and the moments at the beginning where we can see her disdain of the guys in the newsroom, as well as her whole body turning into a pair of knees pointing at Colin. Judy, not Claire, doesn't really carry herself with anything other than arrogance. The only good things I can think of to say about her is she makes her own dresses and is a decent typist, presumably a temp.
Who was it?
Just the wrong number.
So I absolutely love Chances a Fine Thing. It's one of my all-time favourites of the 43 episodes of Press Gang. And I think one of the reasons why is because, almost paradoxically, it kind of haunts me. So many of the best episodes are the ones there where the episode finishes and there's unresolved threads. There's things that didn't get resolved, or just little things that get spun out of character interactions or the plot that make you go, oh, there's a whole load more to that. And yeah, the big one for me in Chances a Fine Thing, that misconnection with the Dublin Girl right at the very end of the episode really, really haunts me, and I love it to bits. I mean, that scene, there's a whole lot being written about this already, and I'm going to echo some of it that you see perhaps in the program guide, where you're being rewarded as a viewer who remembers the Dublin Girl from series 2, who Kenny has a misconnection with. She has a misconnection with his aunt or his grandmother, isn't it? And gets to speak to the Dublin Girl, and she gets reintroduced into this episode, and you're like, yeah, oh, this is great. They're actually going to meet. But no, this is Steven Moffat absolutely subverting Sliding Doors, about a decade before Sliding Doors, the film with Gwyneth Paltrow came out. And, Kenny and the Dublin Girl, Kelly, they meet. They don't recognise each other. And you're like, here we go. And then, no, freeze frame, Sandy Hasty credit. That's it. We're just going to leave that hanging there. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's unexpected. But thematically, it's right in line with all the other unresolved what-ifs, which are the core of Chances a Fine Thing, in Kenny's granddad's story, him talking about destiny, all those things with Lynda in the cafe in his granddad's house. It's a whole load of projection. It's a whole load of philosophical stuff that we get a lot of that from Kenny in this episode. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of going back to Jasper Street in the previous episode, which goes quite deep into some elements of Lynda's childhood, and we're getting some of the same things here with Kenny, and it's tonally very, very similar. I don't think we really ever saw that in kids' TV before Press Gang, and not that I've watched much kids' TV in the last 30 years. I don't think we've seen much of it since, unless you venture into, with all this philosophical and what ifs, and unless you venture into time travel territory, which is obviously where Steven Moffat went when he became the showrunner of Doctor Who. It's beautiful. I love it, and I'm even tearing up a little bit just thinking about that unresolved Landcrest Street Kelly ending. It's just one of the absolute highlights for me. Whole episode, Chances to Find Things, absolute gem. And I love that it also kind of stands alone. There's not much continuity in here. You can kind of pick up who's what. You don't need to have a detailed history of, all the 20 odd episodes that have gone before to pick up this episode and enjoy it. Heavy on the philosophy, heavily on destiny, and I absolutely adore it.
And there we go. Chance is a fine thing. A really nice companion piece to love in the Junior Gazette. So to the telephone tally, where phones move along plot, which in this episode are a lower count than usual. Colin calls Julie to ask her to come by the newsroom. Lynda phones Kenny to apologise. That's it. As ever with writing, there's different versions of scripts. This episode reached the editing room heavily over length.
There are a few little cuts in this episode from the script again. There would have been a scene where Kevin, the photographer, we've seen Kevin in the newsroom for the last few series. He would have tried and failed to chat up Judy Wellman by showing off that he's a photographer, don't you know? Although we do see him in the cluster of rejects later on in the episode. There would have been a scene where Kenny was talking to his granddad about the letter, so he would have spoken to his granddad about that. And then that's why there's a credit at the end of the episode for Sean Phillips.
The decision to cut Stockbridge content couldn't have been taken lightly, as he was a veteran actor. Credits dating back to 1956. The Sunday play, again. Doctor Who's The Underwater Menace, The Tripods, popular British sitcom, Sorry, staples of Brit drama, Casualty, Silent Witness. We get the legacy of Reginald Perrin, London's Burning, EastEnders, Peak Practice, Judge John Deed, The Bill, Doctors. The cut scene was placed a minute into the story, right after Kenny finds a letter, the grandfather paradox. And it was filmed in the back garden where Sean Phillips is working. To note, before asking Lynda, Kenny made a choice to hold back the existence of the letter, just asking Grandad if he knows a Christine. Interestingly, the cut scene gives us what would have been the episode's original title, Dear You. There's a cut when Colin pitches to Kenny how he refers to the rock star storyline and stresses his role as a Junior Gazette's money mover. When Kenny first comes to Lynda with the letter from Christine, she rebukes his query as out of a moral dilemma. It's an interchange where you can hear Ross and Sawalha spark off the page, fun with that playfulness of their relationship.
Also, I suspect that there might have been a little bit more business in the restaurant scene, because on the end credits you can just see a credit for the chief waitress, and she's played by Samantha Janus, who obviously became much more famous many years later thanks to Game On and then EastEnders. But you can just make her out as Colin walks across the restaurant.
Are you ready to order yet, sir?
Yeah, I guess.
There's a few extra lines that do question whether Spike is a good or normal date, alluding to his relationship with Lynda, certainly a premonition of Series 4's opener. Cut dialogue as Colin phones Lynda, and Kenny explains through the letterbox how her phone works. She hangs up, but Colin calls her back later to lease a newsroom for an amount of money that gets her attention. There's a cut line where Judy singles Colin out as the first person to stand up to Clark. This would have made more explicit the jarring relationship with Something Terrible, which Jim talked of earlier. Colin and Judy share a kiss. Colin breaks ties by gifting her a teddy bear. The double nature of the toy, cute and dangerous, is implied to mirror Judy. It could equally be an accusation made against Colin, as Judy implies. Though thematically jarring in the long term, her response is pretty funny here. So far, we've got a Series 3 that's opened with the thick, bold reunification, tying together the pieces from Series 2's finale and rebooting the show softly. We've got Episode 2, which is an incredibly tense thriller and murder mystery drama. And here we've got an episode which is a little bit of fan service and a gentler one, a Kenny story and a questioning of history and faith, as well as a madcap sitcom high romp caper. Paul Reynolds just in his element. I've talked about how many of Paul Reynolds' characters going forward will be iterations of Colin Matthews. Prime Colin is possibly the most powerful character in the Press Gang multiverse. I'd like to thank my contributors, Matt Saunders, matts.net on Blue Sky. There's a new episode of Jim Sangster's podcast, Doctor Who Literature, and his new accompanying animation, The Greatest Show, a Doctor Who musical parody. That's YouTube at Doctor Who Novels, DR Who Novels. I'd like to give a big shout out to all my patrons who make this show possible. Full access from £1 a month, currently charged only in the first of the month, so you can take a free trial depending on when you time it. The Patreon has been up for 9 years, so there's plenty of comics, prose, film and such. And you don't have to dig too deep for my Press Gang Sandbox feature, which is a Patreon exclusive where I react to all of Series 3 for the millionth time. Next time, deadly suspense and the star attraction, Cooper the Clown, dancing reporters, and items flying through the air with the greatest of ease.